Hey there, car enthusiasts and community champions. You might recognize us as Brookings Auto Mall, your trusted car dealership. And yes, we're in the business of selling cars, but today we're revving up something different. Welcome to BAM, Beyond the Lot. What's driving Brookings? Brookings, South Dakota. It's more than a spot on the map. It's a vibrant community where we're shifting gears, steering away from the ordinary and putting the spotlight on the extraordinary people fueling our town's heart. From K-12 educators sparking inspiration both inside and outside the classroom, to SDSU acting as a powerhouse for academic excellence and innovation. The synergy extends to the thrill of SDSU athletics, an unwavering commitment of nonprofits and businesses. These are the gears that keep our community in motion. Brookings may appear as just another town to the outside world, but let me tell you, under the hood, it's a well-oiled machine powered by the people. So join us and buckle up as we hit the road, sharing the stories of the incredible individuals propelling Brookings forward. This is BAM, Beyond the Lot, What's Driving Brookings. Here's your host, Brookings Auto Mall sales consultant and Brookings native, Connor Bestie.
Welcome to another episode of BAM Beyond the Lot, What's Driving Brookings. And today I am joined with none other than Mark Gronowski, obviously a pretty popular name around Brookings now. Glad to have you here, Mark. How's it feel coming off the back-to-back championship and just getting back into the spring semester?
It feels great. I mean, it's still kind of surreal. I mean, going back to back with all those guys, it's a dream come true. And the semester has been off to a great start. We're just started spring lifts again. We're right back at it, trying to go back again.
Awesome. So growing up in Naperville, Illinois, must have had a pretty competitive household. Dad was a former QB at Drake. Can you kind of talk about how he kind of maybe probably influenced you in your love of sports and obviously becoming a QB yourself and what that was like?
Yeah, and just growing up, I mean, we had a pretty big backyard, and we had all the sports equipment you could possibly ask for. Like when I was younger, just because my sister was 8 years old and she's kind of been through all the sports already. So me and my brother and my dad, we'd just go outside and we'd play baseball, we'd play soccer in the backyard, we'd play football, we'd throw that around, and we'd play hockey out in the streets. Like we were just always outside playing together and always trying to compete. And my dad would always create like little games for me and my brother to try and compete at. And I think that's kind of where it all stemmed. And like our love for sports started at a very young age, just because we had all that, the ability to have all that equipment. And our dad's kind of just pushing us to go that way.
Was there a favorite childhood sports game that may not just be like basketball, baseball, but maybe one that you guys made up, or where you kind of just created a whole new set of rules?
Well, I wouldn't even say it was like a whole new set of rules, but so our basement wasn't finished growing up. So we were pretty much like all cement floors and everything. And my sister, as like a present to me and my brother, she kind of like set up like a hockey arena down there, which was kind of cool. And we just threw on skates and like rollerblades, and me and my brother would just rollerblade down there and do play hockey down there. Like there's very small space and everything, but that was always so much fun that me and my brother always loved doing every day.
It's probably a good thing the basement wasn't finished then.
Yeah, no, yeah, we couldn't do it if it was finished. It was kind of perfect the way that it was, and we both really enjoyed it.
Awesome. And so your older sister, she ended up playing college softball at Butler. What was it like being 8 years younger than her, kind of seeing her go through her recruiting process and also being a college athlete herself?
Yeah, it was a little bit different. I mean, we didn't really have too close a relationship growing up, just because there was that 8-year age gap. So when she was leaving for college, shoot, I was still in fourth grade at that point. So I mean, I didn't really understand everything, and my parents always dragged me along to all her softball games throughout her entire travel career, and I kind of got to see a little bit of it, but I just still wasn't really understanding it as much. But then when she got to the college level, I started really really getting into sports a lot more, and I thought it was really cool because I was really into baseball too. And me and her, whenever she'd come back home, we'd go and hit together, try to learn a couple things from her in that sense. But it was cool to see her throughout her process. And then once she was done with college and everything, and I started growing up, our relationship got a lot closer, and it's been really cool to see.
And then your brother is also a quarterback for Special Olympics team. What is something at the QB position that your brother is better at you, that he has the upper hand when it comes to the QB position?
Well, one you have to say there's probably two at least, because I mean he always has the greatest celebrations after whenever they score, whenever he's scoring touchdowns or even his teammates are scoring touchdowns. And I think it's just the juice that he brings to every single time he goes out there, and he's just out there always having fun no matter what's going on. And pretty much just the juice that he plays with is probably the biggest thing that I learned from.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So in high school, you're a three-sport athlete. You got basketball, baseball. You got all conference in both of those, along with obviously the football. If it wasn't going to be football in college, what do you think your journey would have been?
Well, I mean, now that I've started to learn how to play golf, I wish I would have learned golf at an earlier age, then maybe I could have gone through that. But I always thought basketball was always super, super fun, but I didn't really have the height to go play that. I was always a center in high school, so I was out there guarding like the 6'10" guys, the 6'8" guys. So that was never really my strong suit. The dribble and shooting aspect of it, I was more of a grinder down low, getting rebounds. So it probably would end up being baseball at the next level if I would have actually really tried to continue to pursue that and kind of backed off on the football side of things.
So post player in basketball, what was the position on the baseball field, and where were you batting in the lineup?
In baseball, I was kind of playing outfield. It would be right field, center field, and it really kind of depended on how hot we were. Our coaches really like to switch it up throughout the season. And I mean, sometimes I'd be batting around 5-6. Sometimes I'd be batting later in the lineup. Sometimes it'd be move up to go 1-2. Like it was really kind of dependent on if we were hot, and if you weren't, then you were going down in the lineup.
All right. What is maybe out, not counting football again, your some of your favorite sports memories from high school, from baseball or basketball that like to this day you're like, man, I remember that day?
So as we were talking earlier before, Wabansie Valley, our rival schools back home, we were playing them in basketball, and those were always super good games. It was always back and forth. The stands were always fully packed, and we ended up playing them. It was a close game, back and forth the entire time, and they made a bucket with like 0.8 seconds left on the clock to take the lead, and we were like, oh crap. But we ended up having this play that our coach always said, like, we're going to need it at some point. We're going to need it at some point. We've been running it for the past 4 years. And it was finally my senior year. And he's like, all right, we're going to run the play. And so we always had it in our back pocket. And I'm basically sitting running on the baseline, and I throw a pass like all the way across the court. And one of our guys catches it, turns, and shoots a 3-pointer with 0.8 seconds left and bangs it. And then the entire crowd just storms the court after we beat them. And they were higher ranked than us in the state too at that time. So that was just a huge game to do it against our rivals and have like kind of like a quarterback pass all the way across the court. It was kind of cool to end the game like that. And that was a really special memory, just seeing everyone flood the court after that moment.
A QB highlight before all the QB highlights now.
You're right.
So at what point in the high school scene did kind of the recruiting process start for you, when it came to football? When did you kind of know, at what grade were you like, okay, I'm going to be a college football player, like schools are starting to call, and what was that process like?
Yeah, and I always dreamed about it as from being a young kid, and like kind of watching Tim Tebow and some of those great guys, Sam Bradford, Colt McCoy. I really wanted to play college football. That was always a dream of mine. And around my sophomore year, I started going to some different camps, and there's a pretty big mega camp in Naperville at North Central College, which is like the top D3 program in the country. And it always had a bunch of schools always coming there: Minnesota, Wisconsin, a bunch of the MAC schools. And even when I saw South Dakota State there, that's when the first time I saw them. And that was kind of like the first kind of moments where I was like, I'm starting to draw a little bit of attention, and getting just some basic recruiting letters that like they kind of send out to a lot of people. But it was starting to be cool that like, okay, this is starting to come to fruition, that I do have a shot at trying to play at the next level.
Awesome. And so as you kind of get into your junior and senior year, once, with the recruiting rules, when they can start calling you and stuff like that, did you have a lot of schools? Who was it kind of at SDSU that kind of had that first initial outreach that started to build that relationship?
Um, yeah, I mean, the recruiting process was a little bit different for me just because I didn't really have like all the attention that some of these like super big, like 3-star, 4-star, 5-star guys that are getting. I really had to try and reach out to other people. I had to like get on the phone and call. My dad would always try to tell me like, you got to get on the phone and reach out to some of these coaches, that sometimes they're not always going to find you, that you have to reach out to them and kind of make them find you. And that was one of the things I hated about the recruiting process, is trying to build those relationships with people that you don't even know, and not trying to make it awkward, but trying to make it authentic in a way. But from SDSU, the first person that I actually met from SDSU was Coach Lujan, our old OC, and I met him at the North Central camp down at Naperville, and he liked me a lot and stuff, and we started building that relationship. And then when he became the quarterback coach here, he ended up giving me a call and said, "Hey, we want you to come up to SDSU, and we want to give you an offer." And that was kind of how that whole ship started in that sense.
Awesome. So what was your first trip to Brookings? What was that like? Where was it senior year? What was it at, like a big game in the fall? And then what was kind of your first impression of Brookings?
So my first time I came here was the 2019 summer, and it was before my senior football season. I came up here in the middle of June, just for a camp, and then I came like a day early before, and me and my family ended up going to Cubby's. And I obviously were like, "Oh, this is awesome! This place is called Cubby's. It has a bunch of Chicago memorabilia. We're from Chicago. I'm a huge Cubs fan growing up, so we're like, "Oh, this is already pretty cool." And then we were talking to one of the waitresses, and she kind of like guessed that we weren't from around here, I guess, and because I was wearing maybe like a shirt or something that said I was from Chicago. And we kind of told her that we were going to SDSU on a visit for football, and she ended up calling like two other waitresses over, and she was just telling us about how great SDSU is, how great the town is. And me and my family were kind of just like, wow, that was like super genuine. They didn't even have to do that. They didn't have to bring other people over and come talk to us about it. So it really kind of just felt like a family atmosphere, that they like love the town. Everyone's so genuine. And then that next day, meeting Coach Stig for the first time, I mean, he's kind of like a grandpa almost, like that. He's such a loving guy that, as I said before, he's a really genuine person that really just wants the best for you and wants that family atmosphere and culture here at SDSU. And that was one of the big things that we looked at throughout the recruiting process, is you need to go somewhere where that you're loved, and people want to reach out to you. People want to have you be a part of their football program, and that entire experience really kind of just like opened our eyes, that like this is a school that really wants us, that loves us, but not only us, but they love like each other here. They like have a great culture here, that everyone in the town is so genuine and nice here, really.
Oh, that's awesome. Good to hear. And yeah, Cubbies is definitely the place to be anytime there's anything SDSU going on. Even during the national championship game, both times it's just a packed house. And for the people that didn't make the trip down there. But so did you end up going on any other visits during the recruiting process, or was that kind of like hey, like I think I know this is the spot, and kind of what kind of led through the rest of that senior year of high school?
I ended up going to a bunch of places before that. I went to a couple junior day visits, just like Illinois State's really close to me. I went there. Went to Miami of Ohio. I went on a game day visit to like Purdue and Michigan State, and a couple other ones. But um, none of those schools really showed the love that SDSU showed for me. And really tried building that relationship with me. And that was a big thing here. And after that point, I came here on a visit, got the scholarship offer. I was really kind of debating on going to a couple other schools in a few weeks after that. And after talking with some of my coaches back home and learning more about SDSU as I kept doing some research, that this was going to be the best opportunity for me. I was going to have an opportunity to start at a pretty young age here at didn't think as a freshman, which ended up happening, but I was going to have an opportunity pretty early in the process. And I just felt like that this was the main place that really showed a lot of love. So I ended up committing, I think about 2 weeks after I came up here. And that just led into the senior season. And I kind of felt the relief that the recruiting process was kind of over. And I was able to kind of just focus on football at that point.
Awesome. So then you graduate high school and it's time to move up to Brookings in the summer. What was that transition like going from, 3-sport athlete in high school to now like, hey, I have a chance to start, maybe not as a freshman, but like now it's the real deal. I'm going to summer workouts. What was that transition like?
Well, it was the craziest thing about it was it was during COVID. So they kind of told us that we were supposed to come early June, and then that got pushed back to late June. And then we were supposed to come early July, and then that got pushed back to late July. And then it kind of got pushed back another week. We ended up not coming until about like August 5th, August 3rd, or whatever it was. And that entire time ended up kind of just training back at home. And I think one of the biggest things for me is I was always a 3-sport athlete growing up. So I wasn't able to focus on just football. I was kind of doing all 3 sports. And at that time, I kind of just started to hone in on football. And I feel like that gave me a lot of potential just because I haven't just put my sole focus into football at one point in my life. And that was the start of it, which was kind of cool for me. But once I got to SDSU, they ended up canceling the season right away. And so we kind of just had that fall camp in that fall season because it was all over because of COVID. And I feel like that gave me a huge advantage just because I was able to learn the playbook and learn the guys, build relationships with people on the team. And eventually people started to believe in me throughout that process. And it was a lot different coming in here because the game is a whole lot faster. The practices move faster. It's just everything's at a higher pace. And I mean, what sucks is that COVID did happen and we didn't have that season, but it really gave me a huge advantage in the scheme of potentially getting that starting spot in the long run.
And then, so, we have that spring season. And then, at what point are you named the starter? And what's that like being, hey, I'm one of the youngest guys on the team. I'm a freshman. And now, the quarterback is traditionally that like team captain leadership position. What was it like building those relationships? We listen to Coach Rogers now where, he'll say, Mark came in as a freshman and he just had that moxie and he had the room. What was that like going through that, where you build those relationships, you win that trust in your teammates, and hey, you're a freshman and you're starting this spring season?
Yeah, and some advice that I just give to a lot of freshmen is that you got to know when to put your head down and just work. And because a lot of people are watching, even though that people don't think that they're watching, they're always watching. And as long as you keep your head down and just give it your best, the leadership, kind of the basis of it starts as leading by example, doing the little things right, giving it your best effort every single time you're stepping onto the field, and you kind of gain respect that way. And then you can kind of start using your voice and being more of a vocal leader on the sense of that. And I feel like just building those relationships with the guys around me and kind of showing them that will give 100% effort, I will work for it. People really started to believe in me. People started to see that throughout the December and January leading up to our spring season, and starting to just slowly get more reps, and just taking advantage of the opportunity that I was given, and finding out that I was the starting quarterback then a week before the first game. That was a pretty special feeling. It was really surreal. I still remember that meeting in Coach Stig's office. It was with Lujan and Coach Eck as well. And I just remember leaving saying that that Coach Stig, you won't regret this. You won't regret this. That was the big thing that I told him after leaving that office. And hopefully he didn't. Hopefully he didn't regret it. Hopefully it's been pretty good the past 4 years so far. But that was a really special thing. And building those relationships with the guys was the most important part of it. And then obviously before that first game, Coach Stig's little tactic was to not say who we were starting until the day before the game, so that the other team had to try and prep for all three of us, kind of, which was kind of cool.
And so when you're a freshman and you're the new guy in that QB room, and just even overall in the whole season, QB is kind of viewed as that captain leadership position. But who were kind of like your mentors or people you leaned on though that first year when you're at SDSU as you're kind of taking over that leadership role yourself?
I would probably say one of them was a big guy, was Logan Backus, who is an All-American here. He was a great linebacker for us, and he was one of the first guys on defense that really started to believe in me and kind of tell me like, "Hey, we want you to be our guy. Like, I'm trying to tell the coaches for you that we believe in you on this defensive side." And everyone kind of told me that. In past years, the offense and defense haven't been that close, so I kind of started reaching out to the bunch of the defensive guys, and Logan Backus was one of the guys that really had my back from the start. So I can't appreciate him enough. And then on the offensive side of the ball, one of the guys was Mason McCormick, and he's been such a great player for us. And he ended up just graduating, and he'll end up getting drafted this year. But from the beginning, he was another guy that really truly believed in me and tried to push me. And he wasn't really afraid. And he was only a junior at the time, but he was willing to push me and try to get the best out of me in every opportunity. And he was another guy that really reached out to the coaches, tried to get me more reps to get going and try to get more acclimated with all the starters at that time. And just kind of having those upperclassmen say that they believe in you just means that much more. Because then it kind of feels like you are a part of this team and you are a part of this culture that you can kind of grow with them and not kind of like be a backseat to them, and then you can kind of lead with those guys up front.
Yeah, we were talking before about how fast the season just goes by. How fast did that spring freshman season feel? And was there like what's something that you'll always remember from that season that's kind of just like a vivid memory that you kind of take with you?
Yeah, I mean the season went by super super fast. As I remember, I mean we only played 6 regular season games, then ended up having 4 playoff games, and it was kind of weird first season of college because it wasn't exactly how it was supposed to be. But every single week just the flew by. Some of the days were super long, but the weeks really went fast. And probably one of the coolest memories that I had is playing up at NDSU for the first time, and we haven't beat them in I don't know how long it's been. It's been a while up at NDSU, and being a freshman, you don't really understand the rivalries as much. But as I said before, playing against Waubonsie Valley was one of my rivals. They were a green and gold. NDSU was green and gold. I already didn't like that color. The Packers are green and gold. I was a big Bears fan growing up. And so kind of just those colors didn't make me feel good already. But going up there and we ended up playing really well, and we ended up having a pretty good last drive to kind of seal the deal, go up 10 points, and kind of raising that rock up at NDSU. It was such a special feeling, and really kind of gave our guys belief that like, hey, we can do this. We can go to a national championship, win a national championship. And we ended up getting the number 1 seed after that game. So that was kind of a really cool moment in the season that has never been done at SDSU.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously now like that's a big win. We go to the playoffs, and we do get to that national championship game, and we have the injury on like the first series of the game. What kind of was going through your head like when you're like, hey, I'm out for the rest of the game, and how did you respond in that moment? Because obviously like injuries happen, like nobody wants them to happen, but it's like you're like, gosh, we got here, and now this, like, how did you respond in that moment, and what was that kind of process like?
It was super disappointing because I mean, after putting in all the work, you try to get to that moment, and it all gets taken away from you less than 2 minutes into the game. And so that really made me feel disappointed. That really made me feel like I let down the entire team, let down the guys around me because I wasn't able to be on the field with them anymore. And for the first like couple minutes, like maybe 10, 15 minutes, I was kind of really down on myself, but I realized that there's nothing I can do about it now at this point. And I really had to try and just still be a leader from the sidelines and try to encourage the guys around me. And Keaton Heidi ended up stepping in that game, and he didn't get a lot of plays throughout the entire season that year, but he had some experience from the year prior, and I just knew I had to have his back and know that I believed in him and tried to encourage the other guys to continue to believe in Keaton that he was going to get it done for us. He ended up playing an awesome game and gave us the lead with 2 minutes left. And I just knew I had to try and do my part from the sidelines because I couldn't do it on the field anymore at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, it's pretty impressive that it only took you like 10 minutes to be like, all right, I got to get back to it, like be that teammate. But then we finished that spring season, so like COVID kind of gave you an advantage getting you prepped to start. Then it was kind of a disadvantage because you're out for the whole next season. What was that season like, and how did you maximize your growth as a person and a player during that season, outside of, with being limited on the sideline with what you could do?
Yeah, and so that year we ended up having Chris Oladokin come in for a season, and he was a great player for us, but he was even just a greater person in general. He was really easy to talk to, really easy to build a relationship with, and he kind of came in with open ears, open mind, really trying to learn as much as he could from me, in the sense of our playbook and everything like that. But me being still just finishing my first year ever in college, he's going into his sixth year. I was trying to learn a lot from him on just how he has been a leader and a quarterback for the past 5 years, and how he's learned to watch film, study different teams, and how to take notes during film. And that was a big thing for me, learning from him throughout the entire season, the entire off season before that, leading up to that year. And I also, during that entire year, I was able to be on the headset with all the coaches. So being able to listen to them, kind of hear their thought processes throughout games, really made me a better football player, a better student of the game, because I was able to start thinking of those things uh, in following years about like situations, what we should be running in different situations, and kind of expecting different things that are going to be coming my way in the next couple plays, which is kind of cool. And I think that was a big year for me, and just a learning aspect and learning the offense at a deeper level, but also learning how to be a better leader for the guys around me.
Yeah, that's got to be a pretty cool partnership where you're kind of in two different positions, but you're both trying to learn from each other. But there's also that like you're out for the season, so there's not that like super competitive. It's both just like, how do we both get better every day?
Exactly. And that was part of it, just getting the leadership from both of us, because we both kind of had different leadership styles, and we kind of took different things from each other. And I feel like that really grew each other as people, and we got really close because of it.
And so, what would with how much you got out of that season, from Chris and, from just being on the headset, what advice would you give to other athletes that may be like, hey, I'm out for the season, where they're still maybe kind of down about it? Whereas like how much growth you saw in that year because of your approach to that season, what advice do you kind of give to other athletes that may have those injuries?
I mean, for me, I really kind of went through some really difficult times throughout the first couple months of it. And I really started to invest in God a little bit more and know that God has that plan for you. And what's always kind of interesting is sometimes God closes doors for you, but he opens up others. And that was kind of the thing for me, is like he kind of closed that door for me to go onto the field, be that guy for everyone else. But he opened the door to be a better learner, be a better listener of other people, and learn how to be a better leader and try to encourage people more, and not by my actions as much, but more of being a better vocal leader in that sense, which is kind of a cool thing. And also that the process of coming back from injuries becomes so monotonous that you're doing the same things over and over again, but you just got to enjoy and love the process, and know that um, kind of like set little goals for yourself. Because I mean, those every day, you don't see it, you don't see yourself getting better, but maybe you set a goal for yourself like, oh, I can't wait to jog again. I can't wait to sprint again. So once you get to those points, you can kind of really enjoy those little moments that you know that you're getting better and you feel that much better in those moments, instead of it just kind of seeming like it's just one whole long process and you're going through the motions every single day.
Yeah, and we get through that season, and then hey, everybody's excited. Mark Gronowski's coming back. And the first game you're coming back to, it's at Iowa. What is it like going through? So you trust in that process. It's monotonous. Like you got a lot out of that year, and now you're back on the field. Was it almost like being named quarterback a week before your first college game as a freshman? What was it like going down to Iowa and playing that close of a game?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was that as similar as it was being named the starter again, because I kind of knew going in like after that fall season that I was going to kind of have the keys back to the Lambo, so to say. And I just knew I had to keep working and kind of prove myself again. And going into that year, I was kind of a question mark. Nobody knew if I was going to be back to where I was before. It was a big question mark for myself too. Is that could I still compete? So could I still play at a high level with a knee brace and coming off an ACL injury? And going to Iowa, being a Big Ten team and being from Chicagoland area, we were always a Big Ten Big Ten fans really. And so going to Iowa was such a cool thing that a bunch of kids from high school ended up going there as well. And being in such a big stadium, playing against the Iowa Hawkeyes, it was very surreal in that moment. And running out to the crowd and being there with 70,000 people, it was a great way to start off the new season for me. And it wasn't my best game. It wasn't our best game offensively. We had a lot of rough moments in that game, but it was kind of a good start. And to play against such a high level defense was big for our offense, knowing that this was going to be the best defense we see all year. And if we can kind of do our thing, and we saw different parts from that game that we were good at, that we can improve upon, and we kind of continued that out throughout the rest of that next year.
Yeah, and so we get back to the playoffs. We go to Frisco. That we finally get that elusive first national championship. What was that feeling like, and what was it like with your relationship with Stig, kind of being a part of that was on the team that got it done for him? What was it like? Because it seemed like the stories around there was like a lot of players were like, let's get Stig one. Let's get Stig one. What was it like when that, hey, and it's against that yellow and green team again.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was really cool. And for me too, the emotions behind it, being back there and being in that moment again where I had that first injury, it was kind of, I keep saying it, but it was surreal. It was kind of unbelievable in that moment. And sometimes you really don't feel like you can ever get back to that moment. And not everyone has those opportunities that they get to go to 2 national championships. And now we're at 3 that we've been to as a team. It's just you got to take advantage of those opportunities that are given to you, and just having such a good relationship with Stig, and knowing him so well as a person, that he's been doing this for such a long time, and to get him that national championship just felt that much better. And being on the stage with him after, standing right next to him, I mean, he's a very humble guy, and he is not always into celebrations and everything, but to see him kind of raise that trophy for us, and I just remember that was such an iconic picture. Seeing him stand in the middle of all of us and holding that trophy up was so cool. And it was just so special to finally do that for Stig in the end.
And what was it like? Obviously, like maybe you don't know much about SDSU when you're getting recruited in high school, and then you end up choosing this place. What was it like, even this year and last year and the first time we were down there, where you have all those former players and kind of that like last walkthrough, and just seeing the pride and joy of like these guys from anywhere from 50 plus years ago to 10 years ago to, what's that like, feeding off of their emotions and energy and how much it means to them?
Yeah, and our first year going down to Frisco, we didn't really have that because it was that COVID season, so we were kind of more restricted as a team together. But it was really special that next time that we were down there and seeing how much support we had from former players and kind of hearing different stories from a lot of guys. Last year, I ended up kind of talking to a bunch of different people, kind of just learning their names, learning when they played, and trying to get a story out of them that was something interesting that happened to them, and kind of trying to just build that relationship, trying to build the culture that these guys are still part of the team. These guys support so much that this is all of Jackrabbit family. This is the culture that we have here, and it's that family atmosphere that I was talking about earlier. And again, it was really cool to see, and I think there's even more people again this year down there. So just to see that support that we have from all the former players and that they want to come back, come support Stig, come support Rogers, come support the team in general, is just really great to have that backing behind you.
So outside of that moment where you get to see Stig raise that trophy up on the stage with you guys, what is do you have a favorite Stig memory? Like it can be funny or like whatever you want it to, like, is there always just one memory where when you hear you're like, oh man, Coach Stig, I'm never gonna forget this story?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. I mean, I know there's a bunch of different little things that Stig would do. There's never any like super big things, but it was just like little things that you remember that he was always so adamant about. And one of the things that I'm sure a lot of people know, but he always had a list of postulates and kind of rules to live by. And whether that was just even just make sure you wear your padded pants to practice so you don't get injured, or just silly little things like that that he would always end up bringing up that sometimes we wouldn't even know what the postulates mean, but he would always just kind of say a name, say the postulate, and we're all like, yep, we know what that is, sure. And it was kind of those little things that we always just appreciated with Stig, and that sometimes you didn't really know the postulates, but you just kind of like, yep, you kind of just agreed with him and kept it going. But Stig was such an awesome guy, and as I said earlier, he was kind of just that grandpa in the room that everyone loved, everyone cherished, and always liked to gain wisdom from him just because he was such a knowledgeable guy and knew the game of football so well.
So you win that first one with him, and then he retires, and then stays within the program. Coach Rogers takes over. What's that like from a team dynamic going through that transition? Obviously, we see in sports coaching changes happen a lot. Usually it's not from the championship and then new coach comes in. But what was that process like of, hey, like this is going to be a different leader, but Coach Rogers played for Stig, like he's part of the culture. What was that process like from a player's perspective?
I thought it was a pretty smooth transition for us, and we kind of knew, at least the defensive guys really knew Rogers because he was the defensive coordinator prior to being the head coach. So they kind of know what he expected of them, and them kind of just translating that to us and kind of knowing what Rogers needs from us, what he expects from us, and he holds a really high standard, and that's kind of been his saying that he didn't really pick, but it's kind of just stuck, is that the statement is the standard. And what we did that prior year, we kind of needed to continue that. And we played so well that year that we know that we can continue to do that as long as we continue to work hard in the off season, push ourselves, push each other, and hold each other accountable, not let each other fall off, but continue to raise our edge, raise our level, raise our floor. And I thought Rogers did a great job of transitioning and really communicating with us on how or what we want to be changed, and not just changing so much things like right at once, but slowly implementing things that he wants to do, and kind of checking in with the different captains on the team of how the team would feel about different things, which was really cool.
So kind of from people outside the program, they have this perception that Coach Rogers never likes to joke around. He's always just straight face, serious. Like, what's it like being in the locker room with him? Like, can you put those anxieties people have about how serious it is all the time to rest? And like, do you have a funny memory with Coach Rogers?
I don't know if it's always like a super funny thing, but I mean, everyone knows that he is super serious. I mean, even sometimes going into his office, he's always wants the best for us, and he's always kind of serious about getting things done for us, which is really cool to see, and how much passion he has for us. But I mean, after every game, when I'm sure everyone's seen the videos on the Jackrabbit Instagram, but him kind of running into the locker room and jumping into the mosh pit with us, and he always has one of the biggest smiles, and he loves winning more than any of us. And it's really cool to see his passion and him getting excited, kind of dancing around, jumping around with us. And that's always the cool side to see, that him always having a big smile, and it makes everyone else feel good.
Makes me think that that's how he probably was when he was a player, and how he'd celebrate a win after.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
And like, how would you kind of speak to just the culture overall at SDSU and the football program to be able to, you know, you win a national championship with Stig. Now it's handed off to Coach Rogers, and then we still haven't lost a game since that Iowa game. And like,
Mhm.
that's pretty. I feel like most people don't realize how much work goes into that. The day in, the day out, the summer workouts, the long days of the spring season, the leading up to fall. Like, what was that like being a part of it, and how can you kind of like talk about that culture that SDSU has to maybe people that aren't SDSU fans, or maybe you're just getting a glimpse of SDSU?
I really think, as we've kind of overused this word, but we hold ourselves to a really high standard. And throughout the year, let's say we beat a lot of teams pretty handily this year, and but if we didn't play to our potential, like let's say our offense only ended up scoring 28 points, 30 points, um, we didn't feel like we played the best. So we weren't truly satisfied with that win. We weren't happy with it. Yes, we celebrated after the game with the win, but we kind of left with like a emptiness in our stomach, that we didn't really do our best out there. And we kind of, going to that next week, we really wanted to push ourselves to be that version of ourselves that we know that we can be. And kind of always having that not satisfied feeling, um, really kind of just fuels us in a way that we always want what's better for us. We always want each other to be better, and we always hold each other to a super high standard, hold each other accountable, so nobody's really falling off. And I think that's a big thing for us, and being leaders of the team, being other leaders on this team, that we try to raise the level of everyone around us. We're not trying to just get ourselves better, but we're trying to improve everyone around us, leave the legacy for the guys behind us, and continue to improve in that sense.
And what was kind of cool about watching, the days leading up to the national championship game in Frisco, you get named, FCS Offensive Player of the Year, the Walter Payton Award. What was that moment like? Having your family down there, it's the day before the game. You go there, you win that. Take us through that process.
Yeah, that was a really cool event, and they've kind of started showing it a lot more on like Bally Sports around here. And I even got a message from people that were in Florida yesterday that were watching it on the TV, which I thought was kind of funny, that they're still kind of streaming it here and there. But that whole night was really awesome. It was great to meet some of the former players we played against throughout that season that were there for, I mean, like Dylan Kelly from the U Albany, who was there for the Buck Buchanan, um, and just kind of talking to different people there. That was really cool. But the event itself, when they started to kind of announce who was going to be the Walter Payton Award winner, I was sitting up there kind of shaking. I was nervous, and to get that award was such an honor to me, and especially being a kid from Chicago, letting it be Walter Payton, who's a big Chicago Bear growing up, and it was really cool in that sense. But that award itself, I mean, I couldn't have done it without the guys around me. I mean, they mean so much to me, and without the offensive line, the 605 Hogs blocking for me, giving me time, and our guys, their skill guys, our running backs, Isaiah, Amar, and our playmakers making plays for us. I couldn't have got it done without them.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say next, is what I thought was super cool. So, obviously all this is all over, Jack's football social media, but we see the video put together. You go, you get it, you win it, take photos, and you come back to the hotel, and you have your whole team down there, and they're just going crazy for you when you get out of the car. And then the first thing out of your mouth is, "Hey guys, this is a team award." Is that something that you kind of learned from your dad too, being that quarterback position, that leader, where it's like, hey, I know I'm the leader, but like I can't do this without these guys. Where does that, because it's such a humble approach that you don't necessarily see that often from people that have that success.
Yeah, and that whole deal when the team came down, I was not expecting it at all. That was one of the coolest things that probably of my entire time here at SDSU, just knowing that you have all that support behind you, and it was a really cool, surreal feeling to see all those guys supporting me after that moment. But growing up, my dad always kind of really pushed me to be humble, really kind of made that statement the standard, I guess. I say it again, but he kind of continued to push me to be humble throughout my time growing up, playing football, playing different sports, and continue to give other people the glory, give God the glory, give your teammates the glory. That quarterbacks are sometimes going to get the most glory on the team, but they're also going to get the most hate and losses in that sense. So take the blame when it is you, or even sometimes when it's not you, and give other people the glory, because you'll get enough in all aspects of everything else. But continue to push to other people, because I mean, that just makes me feel good. It makes other people feel good as well, to see other people happy about it, to get their glory. But then also one of the like little things that my dad always tried to teach me is that you always got to help out the old linemen. Those guys up front, they do so much of the dirty work for you. They don't really get any of that glory itself. So trying to treat them as much as possible. Like in high school, I started this like giving my offensive lineman, have them come over for dinner and just cooking for them. And O linemen always love food, so I mean, if as long as you're cooking for them, they're going to be happy. And here at SDSU, I've kind of started that same tradition, trying to cook breakfast for them, two times during the season, and then one time throughout playoffs, and kind of just showing that love for them, that you really appreciate them. Um, kind of brings it all together, and they're willing to do things for you and fight for you if you show them appreciation.
All right. So here's a question. Who is the pickiest eater on the 605 Hogs that gives you the biggest headache when it comes to making breakfast for them?
It's kind of crazy, but I don't think any of them are really picky at all. I mean, they'll all, whatever you put in front of them, those guys are going to eat it. So I wouldn't say that there's anyone that's picky or anything like that, which is nice.
What's your signature dish that you whip up for them?
Well, one, thanks to the Applebee's deal, we sometimes just go to Applebee's, and makes my life a whole lot easier. But whenever we're at home, the best thing for us is we always just make pancakes. Because what the O linemen are doing on the field, they're making pancakes, so we got to make them pancakes when they come over to the house.
That's awesome. Awesome. So off the football field, can you kind of tell us about, so, we spoke before, you got a big course load. This last semester, you're graduating with your undergrad degree in mechanical engineering. At some point, the ball is going to stop, as they like to say, when it comes to your athletic career. What's kind of like the dream or the vision that you have, in the classroom, and what you'd like to do after school?
Yeah, so right now I'm a mechanical engineer, about to graduate with that bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering, and I'm really excited for that. This year, we're doing a senior capstone project on trying to build a cheap prosthetic leg for people in third world countries, war-torn countries, which has been kind of a cool experience, because I always love kind of like the medical aspect, and because it's kind of like in the same realm of athletics, with injuries and different things of that sorts, and kind of incorporating the mechanical side of that. So that's been really fun, but I'm trying to get a wide scope of different fields, because I don't really know what I want to go into in the mechanical engineering field as a whole. And after this year, I'm in the master's program at SDSU, going to get my master's of engineering management, and kind of just trying to still learn what is out there for me in the engineering field. But first, my dream and goal is to try and make it to the NFL and try to give myself the best opportunity for that. and try to just ride this football thing out as long as I can, and kind of take things as they will after that part. But uh, yeah, just with engineering in that sense, I don't really know where I want to go with it yet, but kind of just trying to gain as much information as I can before I end up going into that field.
And what I think is, maybe it doesn't get quite as many headlines, but Walter Payton Award, best offensive player in the FCS, but like you're also a second team All-American, academic All-American, and I think the requirement for that is above a 3.5 GPA, and I think you're carrying a 3.7 above that. What is that like? Can you take us through, maybe in the fall and in the spring, what like a day-to-day schedule for Mark Gronowski is, with obviously engineering's not super easy, like, hey, just clock in, clock out. What is a day-to-day workload like and schedule like for you, balancing those two and having the success that you have in both of those realms?
Yeah, and one thing like a thing with athletes, that stereotype is that they're not always going to be as good in their studies and their in their course loads and everything. But how I've kind of been growing up, my parents have kind of always told me, is how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you're going to compete on the football field, you got to compete in the classroom, try to get the best out of everything, and give your best with the opportunities that are given to you. And in the springtime, some of these days get super, super busy and super, super long. And I mean, that was kind of the troubles of trying to even set up this interview with you, is that I'm kind of doing stuff all day. I'm kind of going, going, going. And especially once we start doing some captain's practices later in February and doing some extra meetings, some of the days are going to be looking like on a Monday, I got lift at 6 a.m. and we're lifting until about 8. And then I got treatments from 8 to 8:45, and just trying to get my body into tip top shape, doing some of the little muscle groups, ice in my body to try and recover faster. And then I get a little bit of break to go eat breakfast. Then I'm going straight to class at 10, then another class at 11. Then I get a break for about an hour and a half to go eat lunch. And then now I'm back to class at 2 o'clock. And then we're going to captain's practice at 4 o'clock. And then we have like position meetings at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. And then I get to go home, eat dinner. And then now I got to go to bed at 9 o'clock because the whole thing starts again the next day at 6 a.m. So it's just kind of always having your day filled, always trying to find time to sit back and relax and kind of just enjoy life a little bit, enjoy time with friends, trying to figure out sometimes do homework as well, which is always a tough thing. But it's kind of just always going, going, going for me and all the other guys in the team.
Yeah. And I know SDSU has great support with the academic advisors and coordinating with professors and all that with the crazy schedules. But kind of speaking of that, relaxing when you do get the downtime, maybe it's more so summer, but what does Mark Gronowski like to do outside of football and school? What are you doing for fun? Like what TV shows? Do you have any, guilty pleasure TV shows that, hey, I'm always watching X, Y, or Z, or what are you doing outside of the football and the school?
Well, this past fall, I was really summer and fall, I was really into Game of Thrones, and I finally watched it after all these years. It's been on TV, and kind of finishing that. That was really great, and kind of starting the next one, that's the House of Dragons, which has been really good so far. But other than that, really just trying to go hang out with friends, and again, trying to build those relationships with different people around the team, and trying to hang out with different people. And I try to play that. I just got a new Xbox too, so just trying to play the game a little bit with some guys, playing some Fortnite, playing some FIFA with different guys, and really trying to. I don't like spending time alone too much. I kind of like getting out doing things with other people, which is always fun.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, Mark, and obviously, keep it up. I know you're busy, so really appreciate you taking the time to be on this, and excited to share it with everybody in the Brookings community.
Thanks for having me on. This has been a lot of fun.